Today we're diving into a really powerful story by Catherine Mansfield called The Little Girl. It's all about how a child's feelings for a parent can change, really change, from pure terror to a deep, moving understanding. And it's a journey that I think a lot of us can probably relate to in some way. Just think about that for a second. Do you get things about them now that used to confuse you or maybe even scare you when you were a kid? Well, that exact shift is what this story is all about. It follows our main character, a little girl named Kezia. And this quote right here, it says it all. For Kezia, her father isn't a safe space. He's someone to run away from. Every morning, the best part of her day is hearing the sound of his carriage fading down the long road as he leaves for work. That's the moment she can finally breathe. So why? Why is she so scared of him? Well, in her eyes, he isn't just a dad. He's something much, much bigger. Imagine this daily routine. He comes home and his voice just booms through the house. He's asking for the newspaper, for his tea, for his slippers. He looks at Kezia over the top of his glasses in a way that just makes her freeze. Even his body is overwhelming to her. His huge hands, his neck, and especially, she says, his mouth when he yawns. For her, thinking about her father is literally like thinking about a giant. And if his presence wasn't enough, his words, wow, they are just as scary. He'll criticize her for looking wretched, and he even complains to her mother about it. She has this little stutter, but it only happens when she's in front of him, because she's trying so hard to say everything perfectly. It's not a relationship, it's an ordeal for her. Okay, so this baseline level of fear is always there. But then comes the moment that just cements it all. An incident where a totally innocent act of love just goes terribly, terribly wrong. So her father's birthday is coming up, and her sweet grandmother suggests, hey, why don't you make him a pincushion? So Kezia gets to work. She carefully stitches 3 sides of this beautiful yellow silk. But now she has a problem. What does she fill it with? So she's wandering around looking for scraps, and she ends up in her parents' bedroom. And there, on the nightstand, she finds a whole stack of paper. Perfect! Or so she thinks. She tears all the sheets into little tiny pieces, stuffs the cushion, and proudly sews up that last side. That night, the house is in total chaos. There's a hue and cry. Her father is just furious, pacing back and forth. His big important speech for the Port Authority is gone. They look everywhere. Finally, her mother comes into her room and asks, Kezia, did you happen to see some papers? And Kezia, with absolutely no idea what she's done, says, oh yes, I tore them up for my surprise. You can imagine what happens next. She's dragged downstairs to face him, and he doesn't see a loving little girl trying to make a gift. Nope. All he sees is that she broke a rule. He comes to her room with a ruler, and even though she's screaming and trying to explain it was for him, for his birthday, he punishes her. A cold, hard lesson. And a little while later, as she's sobbing in her grandmother's arms, this is the question she asks. It's just heartbreaking. What did God make fathers for? From where she's standing, it seems like they were made just to be cruel. And that feeling, that sticks with her for a long, long time. But sometimes it's these really painful moments that actually force us to see the world in a new way. And this experience leads Kezia to a really important realization. One day, she's looking through a little gap in the fence into her neighbor's yard, and she sees their dad, a Mr. McDonald, playing tag with his 5 kids. They're laughing, they're running around. One of them even turns the hose on him, and he just laughs. It is a whole different world from her own father, who's usually just passed out on the sofa snoring. It's night and day. And right then and there, she makes up her mind. There are just different kinds of fathers in the world. Simple as that. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot. Because circumstances are about to force Kezia and her father together in a way that's going to challenge everything she thought she knew. So, one day, her mother gets sick, and she and the grandmother have to go to the hospital. This means Kezia is left alone in the house with just the cook and her father. And she is terrified of the dark. And just like she feared, the nightmare comes. The same one she always has, this awful butcher with a knife and a rope. She wakes up just screaming for her grandma. But the person who shows up at her bedside holding a candle, it isn't her grandmother. It's him. It's her father. And his voice is different. It's quiet. He just asks, what's the matter? He actually listens as she whispers about the scary butcher. And then he does something she could never, ever have predicted. He blows out the candle, leans down, and just scoops her up in his arms. He carries her to his own big bed and tucks her in right next to him. She snuggles her head under his arm, holding tight to his shirt, and all of a sudden, the dark isn't scary anymore.
And this is the moment. He tells her to rub her cold feet against his legs to get them warm. This simple, gentle act of kindness, this unexpected warmth from the man she thought was a monster, it starts to melt away all that fear.
And that one single night leads to the story's final, absolutely beautiful transformation, Kezia's ultimate realization. As she's lying there next to him, a funny feeling comes over her. It's like a light bulb finally goes on in her head. He's not a giant. He's just a person who has to work so hard every single day that he's just too tired to be like Mr. McDonald. He doesn't have the energy to play tag.
And that thought, it changes everything. The fear is just gone. And in its place is something completely new. Sympathy. She sees his exhaustion. She sees that maybe his hardness wasn't cruelty, but just a shield. She sees that he's lonely. He isn't a giant to be scared of. He's a tired man who needs someone to look after him, too.
She sighs, and he wakes up a little, asking if she had another dream. She tells him no. Her head is on his heart, and she can hear it beating. And then she says it, the line that brings her whole journey full circle. What a big heart you've got, Father dear.
Kezia learned to see past the big, scary outside to the tired, lonely person underneath. And her story kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? Who are the giants in our own lives? The people we might be afraid of or just don't understand? The ones who, maybe, if we just got a little bit closer, we might find have a really big heart after all.